And today the topic that could not suffer a paywall is what is now universally described as vaccine hesitancy and the general condition of misinformation and disinformation that surrounds vaccines in general, but the COVID mRNA vaccines in particular. I think anyone who's listened to the podcast in the last year or so will have no doubt about where I stand on the topic of the COVID vaccines. But I haven't focused on it because it seemed like there really has not been all that much to say. And there's just a general air of futility around persuading anyone who has decided for one reason or another that they're really worried about the COVID vaccines and not all that worried about COVID. That's the bifurcation here. We have a very large cohort in our society who think that COVID is not an especially big deal. At minimum, the dangers of it have been exaggerated. Of course, there are many millions of people who think it's a hoax and that there is, in fact, no problem at all. In any case, there's a spectrum of opinion on this side, wherein people are really not at all concerned about getting COVID, but they're quite concerned about the dangers or imagined dangers associated with the vaccines for COVID. And then there are the rest of us who have the valence on those terms flipped, and we're quite concerned about COVID and not especially concerned about the risk of vaccines. Rather, we were incredibly eager to get vaccinated and to get our kids vaccinated. And we are fairly aghast at and increasingly troubled by the thinking and unjustified certainties coming from the other camp. If people agree about anything on this topic, it's that you can't shame the other side into compliance. Right, and to talk down to them, to cast the vaccine hesitant as stupid or uneducated is generally deemed counterproductive. And it's also, in many cases, just not true because there are many smart people who fall into this camp, as will become obvious. Anyway, the fact that this is possible, the fact that one can be smart and aggressively misinformed and misinforming of others attests to just how bad the problem of misinformation has grown in our society. Anyway, I was avoiding this topic because, again, I don't think there's that much to say on it, but it's pretty obvious now as the pace of vaccination has slowed to a crawl in the United States, and the need for vaccination globally is fairly excruciating. And the Delta variant has tipped us into a condition where even those of us who are vaccinated can no longer enjoy the light at the end of the tunnel because we have been pushed back into that tunnel by, frankly, the confusion of our neighbors